Welcome to the Executive Connect podcast, where we explore the strategies and innovations that leaders are using to navigate today's complex workplace. Today, we're thrilled to have Nishtha with us. She's the head of innovation and digital technologies at Takeda, as well as the president of the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, HBA Mid Atlantic Chapter. She's a recognized leader in the biopharma and healthcare industries, particularly known for her expertise in AI, digital innovation, and digital health. Nishtha, I'm so excited for you this year. You've received the most influential women leaders shaping the future of healthcare 2024 from CIO Look magazine. Congratulations, and thank you for being with us here today on Executive Connect. I always love to start with just giving us a little bit of a background of you and just how you got into this industry and anything you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. So thank you for asking that question. So again, come originally from India. So I immigrated to United States in 2011 to pursue a master's degree in biotechnology. And prior to moving to United States, I had an engineering in biotechnology. So I have always had passion for the industry. And at the time when I had started this degree, it was a very niche field, and it wasn't, we did not know the value of biotechnology until very recently, when in 2020 we saw how it was biotechnology that was able to get us vaccines right in the time, and in such. I definitely see that how the industry has evolved, and with the emergence of AI and some of these new digital technologies, this industry it's ever evolving. So again, I'm very very passionate about biotechnology and how we could
Yeah,
apply some
absolutely.
of
I'm
these
so
new
happy to have
technologies
you here
in
to
this
talk about
industry
this. And I know today
to
we're going to talk
solve
a little bit
essentially,
about
the
mental and
problem,
emotional
which is how
wellness.
do
And I
we
know we're
get
seeing a
the
lot
drugs
more
to the
of it
market faster.
in today since COVID-19 and the pandemic. We've saw it a lot this year during the US the Olympics, and a lot of the US athletes were talking a lot about mental and emotional wellness. I want to get your perspective on mental health challenges in today's workplace, and what are some of the really pressing issues that you're seeing that employees are facing today?
Yeah, so firstly, in today's workplace, as you may have seen, some of the companies have said, okay, come back to the office where people were working remotely. But then there are still a lot of companies that have said, okay, we are in hybrid mode. And what hybrid means is that, some days you may go into the office, but then rest of the days people are still working from home. Again, what I would say, and what I've heard from my employees and from my coworkers and everybody is that the typical mental health challenges that people face is burnout, which typically is resulting from chronic stress and exhaustion from constant work demands and performance pressure. And this is most certainly because of remote work environment and those hybrid environments. In addition, people are suffering from the general stress and anxiety that has been, exacerbated due to some of the economical uncertainty that's evolving, insecurity, and the fear of layoffs. and downsizing, which we have started seeing in the last 1.5 year and has been still emerging. So again,
Yeah, I
I
do.
definitely think
I
a lot
absolutely
has to
agree
do
with
with
the
the remote
burnout
and
from chronic
hybrid
stress.
kind of
I've been
workplaces, that
taking
that
knee
it's not the
days,
old
right?
workplace,
Something
but
as
it's a
simple
very
as
different
taking
and
a day
evolving
off just to
workplaces now.
run errands, to get out of my head, to go exercise, to see my doctors. They're really important to take those times to decompress, to get away from technology, just to do some things that you have to do in your personal life and really take care of yourself and your family and any of your hobbies. So, I want to talk a little bit about digital technology and constant connectivity that's contributing to workplace stress. I know, like, we're constantly on these days, our phones, our computers, our doorbells, our everything's attached to the internet, attached to us, and our watches, everything. We're always on 24/7, and how it really affects our brain and our body.
Yeah, so definitely the constant influx of emails, notification updates, it's very overwhelming, and it can lead to not only decreased focus, but difficulty in prioritizing what needs to get done and what I would do later, and also it's just becoming increasingly stressful to manage, because and there is also information fatigue because there's just so much information to process. And what I hear is, back in the day, this used to be what we would process in multiple years. So now in a single day we process so much information that our ancestors used to process. They used to take many years to process the same amount. And then also the technology is constantly changing. So it's like, with Gen AI and how fast it's just taking over the industry, there's a continuous need to learn and adapt to these new technologies. And it's very difficult for those who in general keep up. They struggle to keep up with such technologies, so it's additional source of that stress and the pressure. And it's potentially impacting job performance and satisfaction for anybody in the workplace. And overall there is digital distraction most of the time, because now, as we operate in workplace, there are multiple tools, digital tools that we have open at the same time. And because of the remote nature, sometimes you get pinged on the phone, on the Teams chat, or on the Zoom chat. So depending on how many technology platforms a person is accessing at a moment, it literally is just distraction the whole time. So
Yeah,
overall,
I
these are
absolutely
not
agree.
everything. All these
And
things
not
are
just your work,
reducing the
your
productivity
personal
and
life too.
increasing
If you
the
have
stress
social
level,
media
and just
channels, your
making
own
it hard for
personal
employees to
emails, all kinds
stay
of things
focused.
inside and outside work. And I know I'm asked a lot when I speak to different groups about how to juggle work life balance from, you know, in a modern way. A lot of times people are wondering how to do it, how can they do it? And I think from my perspective, I believe in work life integration and making it work. And, some days we're going to be not balanced. We're going to be spending more time with our job, and other days we're going to be spending more time with our family. And so I want to get your philosophy about balancing mind, body, and soul, and really talking about this work life balance. Is there such a thing? How is it evolved with digital technologies?
Yeah, so my work-life balance philosophy is, as you said, integration. So my belief is that, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So the first thing for anybody is to fill their cup. And then filling their cup is, think of three pieces of pie, where one is mind, one is your body, and one is your soul. So if you are not meeting any of those one pieces of pie, or you are not pouring into that first, there's no way for you to sort of pour out or give back or give anything to the people. So I believe that finding the balance between those three different factors is sort of key to how somebody can find that sort of work life balance. And I definitely would say that when it comes to mind, it's like building the muscle. So all these three can be separated. Think of these as different buckets, and how can you build muscle in each area. And where think of mind more as three pieces that I always think of in the mind is self awareness. Am I aware of myself? Do I actually know what I'm doing? What do I want? Am I in the right job? So self awareness. Then self regulation, which is where that sort of emotional and like little bit of mental regulation comes in, where you are present in the moment and not constantly somewhere else. And then thirdly, for mind, it's self development, where you have to constantly keep your mind motivated, not just by what you are seeing and learning at work, but maybe podcasts like these, TED Talks, and some of the other channels and medias that are most accessible. So that is what I would say is in the mind bucket. Now for body, again, Melissa, I mean, firstly, physical activity is super important, and with long work hours and not moving at all, I think that's definitely something we have to prioritize and say, okay, this is something that's non-negotiable, and I have to complete 5 to 10K steps. So that's something one has to set up their goal as. But then there is nutrition and sleep, which are also equally important when it comes to the body piece, because people actually underestimate the power of 8 hour sleep. So earlier there used to be a lot of studies where people were used to be like, oh, I sleep 5 hours, and they thought it was cool, but not anymore. So that's changing now. People and some of the big leaders and CEOs openly talk about that they prioritize their sleep, and they are making it to that 8 hours. So that's the body element. And then again, the third element, which is the soul element, which I believe is where not everybody sort of is focused on, is sort of incorporating that mindfulness and reflection in your day. And it could be through simply just sitting, breathing. It could be through, if you can meditate, that's the best way to go. Or some people really like to journal, and they like to connect with they just like to reflect. So I think those are some of the methods. And then of course
Yeah, you're so spot on
spirituality
with
is
mind,
another
body, and
piece to
soul.
that. So
I,
if
I
you
love
have
what you
like
said
communities and
about
places where
you
you
can't
feel
pour from an
more
empty
sense of
cup. And
belonging,
that is
so
so
that is
spot
that
on,
specific
because if you
element
have, we
that
all
one could
have,
build on.
a certain amount of energy to attack a day, right? And if that energy, like a gas tank, is empty, you're not able to function, you're not able to listen, you're not able to understand, you're maybe short tempered, you're maybe not compassionate, and you really can't bring your best self to anybody if you're on empty, like your gas tank is in your car, because your car can't run, right, without gas, just like you can't run without energy. And so you're spot on to be mindful about the energy and where you're putting it, and really balancing all the pieces. And there is ways to incorporate it, like you were saying, exercise. Absolutely, we got to move our body when we're sitting at our desk all day. And if you don't have the opportunity to get out and go take an exercise class or go to the gym, get a standing desk and put a treadmill under your desk while you take your meetings. Or set up reminders on your phone that says, okay, noon every day you're going to do 20 push-ups and 50 sit-ups, and really hold yourself accountable, because it is a priority. And the less that you're mindful, like you mentioned, and the less you pay attention, it really deteriorates your health. And ultimately, when you're not servicing yourself, you can't service others. So absolutely, mind, body, and soul, it's all intertwined. And I want to talk a little bit about too. I think a lot of times, you know, at least for me and maybe for you as well, like I was always traveling, constantly traveling to see clients and driving to see clients or flying to see clients. And I think the beauty of COVID-19 is we're able to do a lot with a phone call or a lot with a Teams call. So when you're overworked and you're on E and you got to get on a 5 a.m. plane flight, do you really need to do it? And it's really stepping back and thinking about the old way that we used to do things. Is that the right way? And really creating strategies to improve your work life balance so you can bring your best self to your job and your goals. So I want to talk a little bit about actual strategies that people can use to really improve their work life balance, and maybe some tips that you can share with our listeners.
Mhm. Sure, sure. So I want to maybe start with, first of all, as you were mentioning, so do I really need to fly to meet this client, right? So a lot of digital technology, I know we talked about some negative things, but it has a lot of positives, which is, for you to be able to manage your schedule. So again, if you do not want, if you don't have to be in a meeting in person, can that you just handle it virtually and not actually travel. So again, I have tried to keep these three different things. So one is, how like daily routine and small habits can actually make a major difference in your and in how you show up for your day. So one thing that I try to do, and I actually heard it from an influencer that I follow, is, how would you feel if 1,000 people would walk into your room, when you wake up? So think of, when we the first thing we do in the morning is actually simply open our phone and start like surfing social media. That's exactly what we are doing. So I think, so what I and this is a very conscious effort that I try to not access any digital technology or blue light devices 15 minutes before sleeping and 15 minutes after I get up from the sleep. So which again, it sounds like, oh really, what would that do? But it is actually really really helpful, because it allows you to actually wake up and then just like settle down, just reflect, and then have that time for yourself for the first 10 minutes of the day before actually touching your phone and starting to get nonstop. Because like in past, the first reaction would be picking up the first thing I would check is the email, right? Like work email, what did I receive from last night to now. So I think that is something that I saw has worked for me. And again, I would love to share that it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes maximum before sleeping, and after you wake up. Hard habit to build, but possible. And then in after that 10 minutes, if you can build like 5 minutes for that breathing or sort of mindfulness or meditation. Again, it's something, it's a preference, it's a personal choice. I know some people like to get up and they like to stretch instead of like kind of just breathing and focusing. So whatever works for people. But again, that first 10 minutes and last 10 minutes of the day can actually set the tone for the day really well. So that's just the part of the hobby that could be changed. Now the other piece that I sort of implemented during pandemic, and which was when I was working remotely a lot, and even though I was hybrid employee after a point, but there were days I had no boundary, where there was like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and I'm nonstop going constantly. So again, this was a strategy that what I did is I joined a health club, and that health club is called as Orange Theory. And what they do is basically you sign up for classes and you have a times class. So if I have a class at 6 p.m., and if I don't show up, then I will have to pay exactly the amount of fee they had initially charged me. So basically, I'll have to pay double for the class for not showing up. So I signed up for those for 6 p.m. every evening. So which would mean by 5:30 I have to stop working. And what happened was, after 2 or 3 weeks of doing this, I actually somehow was able to manage my time better and wrap up things by that time.
And
So
I
again,
think you're
initially it
spot
was
on
not the part
scheduling
of
it.
what
And
I
because you're
was,
more likely,
used
like
to,
you
but
said, to
I
do
think it
something
somehow
if it's
worked. So
scheduled
just
and
these
paid
certain
for
very small
versus
things,
just saying, I'm
and
going to sign up for a
had
gym
major
and I'm going to
impact.
go Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, really, you're just out that
Yep.
monthly fee. But if you schedule a massage or a gym class or a trainer, you're actually out more than just that. I think that's spot on. And I think the other thing too is knowing when you exercise best. Like for me, I'm an early morning person and
Yep.
I get up and exercise works better for me in the morning than it does at night. At night it's harder to get through it. And so I think it's knowing who you are and when you
Yep.
work best. If you're the kind of person that likes to hit the ground running in the morning and you're tired in the evening, maybe it's a lunchtime for you or a 30-minute break to go catch a quick class or and it really goes back to what you said, the mindfulness and learning what works. So if you show up to the gym at 5 and you're on E, you're not going to get through your workout. You might do a C level or less effort and you're tired and you leave. So then try morning, try lunch, try the weekends. And so I think it really just goes back to what you were saying, understanding the way you work best and giving yourself time. Getting into a routine of going to the gym, X days a week takes time to get yourself programmed and going. So give yourself some grace and give it like a good 90-day college try. And if you make a mistake, try again the next week because it really is just reprogramming yourself to doing these things. I want to talk a little bit about AI. AI is the buzzword these days. There's a lot of tools that are being used in this space. So I want to just get your perspective and maybe an overview of
Mhm.
AI tools like chatbots, virtual agents, and how AI is currently being utilized to support mental health in the workplace.
Sure, sure. So before I talk about it, Melissa, what I wanna share is like a little story of when actually AI was introduced in this mental health space, which very few people might know. So it was originally introduced in actually 1966 by a scientist named Joseph Weisenberg, and he was a German scientist. He created a mental health psychotherapist bot, and the name of the bot was called as Eliza. So Eliza was supposed to emulate a kind of talk therapy where practitioner would often repeat their patient responses back to them. So for example, if a patient said, my boyfriend made me come here, the bot would say, oh, your boyfriend made you come here? So then the next thing would be, the patient would say yes, and then the bot would say, yeah, so tell me more. And then what so Weisenbaum was trying to prove that these bots are really really bad at understanding complexity of human emotions. But his experiment totally backfired him, and it turns out that people who got access to Eliza were very very enticed by active listening skills of Eliza, because it would say, tell me more, tell me more. And I think people really just wanted to share and kind of not get any inputs. So again, this is a very interesting story, and this was like 1966. But then regardless of that, now mental health AI is back on the rise, where all a lot of AI systems are like human therapists, so to speak, are being replaced by AI systems. And essentially, I want to think of people here who do not have access to therapists, or people who want this therapist want this access round the clock. So for them, these kind of bots are actually a game changer, because if, say, I really want to talk to someone which is after 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., when officially I may not have a physical therapist who would support me, these could work round the clock and really really help people to get the support that they need, and also the
Yeah, and they're
accessibility of
using
getting to
AI
therapists
I've
is
seen a
really
lot of
not
stuff in
the
my
best in
scroll
the country.
recently.
So
AI
yeah, so
is
definitely now
detecting and
you can see the
diagnosing
same
mental
concept
health
being back
conditions
on the
earlier
rise.
than if somebody were, and not just mental health, a lot of other health conditions earlier than they would have if they continue to see a therapist. And you can create these personalized treatment plans, right, for AI, through AI to people, correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so again, how AI is working is basically it's analyzing people's speech text behavior. It can detect signs of somebody who's suffering from depression and anxiety, or some kind of mental health ailment, just by think of their social media post, or just by how they are texting. So based on their text, there is a possibility that AI can actually detect that this person doesn't sound like they are okay, so just by the language of it. So again, by detection of that, again, AI really can help in identification by doctors intervening early in the early before the person actually is needing the help. But then also in the personalized treatment space, where so there is no one size fits all kind of you know mental therapy approach, or psychotherapy. When you go to a therapist, they barely spend any time with you, so it's like between that 15 to 30 minutes that they talk to you, and then they try to give you medications or therapy based on that. But again, if there is a tool such as AI tools that could continue collecting your data through your smartphones and devices, and also be able to chat with you in this form, I think they can certainly create those personalized treatments for people. And overall, and again, I have seen this a lot of time, that my Apple Watch would say, okay, hi, your heart rate is high, so stop, just take a breath. So again, that's something where if I'm getting stressed out, my Apple Watch will let me know. So also, in addition
Yeah,
to
and I
this
think
diagnosis,
humans, we
personalized
have
treatment,
blind
it
spots,
certainly is
right? Like
helping
a lot of
people in
times,
better mental health management.
you wake
So
up and
again,
you're like, oh, I
AI is
slept plenty,
definitely
and you start your
game
day and you go
changer when it
about your
comes to
day, but
mental
your
health
Apple
space.
Watch or your Aura Ring says that you only, maybe slept 4 hours instead of your 8 hours. And so I think it's also this data, right? Giving us the information that we might forget about, that we didn't sleep, or, we were stressed all day and we're like, oh, I had a really calm day at work. But you look at your metrics and you had a really high stress all day, and looking like, how are, when you take down your day, what are you doing? Are you, doing something you shouldn't after work, like eating incorrectly or drinking or doing other things? And so I think the data is really important, because we do have blind spots as people, and we just kind of focus on the task and keep going and doing and going and doing. But like you said at the beginning, we're really overloaded, cognitive overload, being pinged for all different times at all different, needing all different things at all different times of the night. And I love what you said about like having an AI tool like at 8 o'clock at night, because regular therapy sessions are, really 8 to 5 standard hour, like 8 to 5. If you work from 8 to 5 and you can't get to a therapist until after 5, it's hard, right? So having like that flexibility in your schedule and companionship, that someone's going to actually listen for more than 15 and 30 minutes, is really important, because sometimes it takes time for people to get out what they're trying to communicate. And they're not always really quick to get it all out. And so, like you said, they need more than, 15 to 30 minutes to talk about it. Um, so I love the idea of AI powered virtual therapist. Any other like visions that you have for the future integration of AI in mental health and work life balance that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, yeah. So there are actually definitely, Melissa, one of the things I want to share some facts, and I think this is a very important, like, sort of Mental Health America report, and it shares some of the stats of 2024 as to, what's going on in this space. So I just want to highlight those, and then maybe based on those, share some of the future tools that could help us in, solving for these problems. So as per the report, and I have actually shared the link with you, you can certainly share it with the audience. 23% of adult Americans experience mental health illness in the past year, which actually is around 60 million Americans. And out of which it is one out of every five youth actually is reporting that they have at least one major depressive episode, which is around 3 million youth. So the 60 million, in out of those 3 million are youths that are suffering, and only 65% got helped. And then, what people reported is that cost is a significant barrier for them to be accessing the mental health. So every only 1 in 4 American actually is able to, access the cost because of the cost, and people have reported that it has just gone up. So when it comes to AI, so think of, as these virtual agents come into play and more tools come into play, they definitely can improve that accessibility, which is a big issue at the moment. And again, when it comes to AI in the future of mental health, again, personalization is what we talked about. There could be, these this access to the therapy. So that those are two factors, but then the third important thing, which again, and I'm very biased because I come from pharma and R&D, is the better mental health therapy and medicines. So all this data that we are getting is helping in the accelerated research in this industry, because now not only do you have the patient data, but you can get their real world data, you can get their genetic data, and actually you can apply predictions to say, based on all the information I have about you, there is a possibility that you may build up some, mental health condition in future. So again, it's definitely something that can help in building these medicines. And as I said, the major challenge in the pharma is getting them faster to the patient, which again is being worked on a broader scale. So again, if we
Yeah, and
could
I
have
think,
a very
another thing
solid
too is like
data
you were
from the
saying,
patient in this
is there
space,
enough
because this is a
providers that
space
can
where you don't see
support these
anything, right?
numbers? I
Like,
mean, those are
if you have a
huge
mental
numbers
health
that you
issue,
shared
people
with
don't
us,
see
big
it.
numbers. And, they're all, I would say, the youth have a very separate need than, people that are professionals that have been working that, have an understanding of who they are. When you're very young and you're teenagers, you're still kind of figuring out who you are. And so I think the other thing is like these numbers are crazy. Having, the actual, counselors and these kind of people available to you through, your insurance providers or even outside of your insurance providers. I see a lot of coaching now, people that are, not using their insurance because they can't get access or they're too expensive, going outside of the, the healthcare industry to private, coaches to get the kind of support they need so they can afford it. So I think you're spot on. I want to just kind of, any final thoughts you want to share with the listeners before we close up that we haven't touched on? I know we covered so much today. Is there anything, else you want to share today?
Yeah, so I think my final thought would be that obviously AI has a lot of potential to transform mental health support and work-life balance by, offering this personalized, efficient, scalable solutions. However, I just want to point this out that there's definitely that careful consideration needed on the privacy and the accessibility issues. Which again, there has been a lot of regulation work that's being done in this space. So again, so that's something to keep in mind, that it's still an evolving space. So what I would maybe say as like call of action for folks would be that they start to use these daily AI tools in their work life, their work spaces, because and not see them as their enemy, but see them as their companion, because a lot of these tools, and specifically the one around Gen AI that can help you in more of content summarization, creation, etc., are here to stay.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
definitely,
And thank
that
you.
would
I
be
want to
my
thank you
final
so
message, that
much for being here
it's still
today. I know
coming
you're
and it's going to
very
evolve, so we
busy,
should
and
see it
I
more as
want
an
to congratulate
opportunity,
you again on your
than as a threat.
2024 influential women leaders shaping the future of healthcare. That's a tremendous award. And thank you so much for all you do. And again, thank you for being on the Executive Connect podcast.